Hey, good evening and Merry Christmas to all you awesome people out there. You might be watching this after Christmas, but the Christmas spirit kind of carries over a few days most of the times until we get to like New Year's, and then all of a sudden it's forget about Christmas, it's a new year. But it's Christmas Day that I'm recording this. To most people, it's Christmas Day. To me, it's the day after Christmas because I celebrated yesterday with my daughters, who then celebrated today with their mom. Uh, and it was a really good time. Really enjoyed it. And tonight, you can't find good beer here in Missouri. I can't find good beer yet. Like a good local craft beer or something. There's just not many that I found. I found some that are like, this is local and it's just not that good. I mean, it's not bad, it's just not that good. But we are close enough to Texas that I'm able to get this, which is hard to find when I was up in Washington. The old Shinerbach. Those who are around the Texas area, that's just like, what? It's not in every store and every fucking bar everywhere. No, when you're further up north, it's not. Every once in a while you see it, but it's not a staple like it is down here. So, but it is a really good beer. I do like Shinerbach a lot. And tonight I'm going to have a Boilermaker. So I got Shinerbach and my favorite, the Tin Cup from Colorado. So Shinerbach from Texas, Tin Cup from Colorado. What a combo for my Boilermaker, which I haven't had one in a little while. So, but I figure this will be a good combo. There you go. Watch. Steinerbach has a very nice color. Look at that. Very dark. Darker than I expected because it's a fairly refreshing beer. It's not like American lager that tastes like water, but it's not bad. So, Merry Christmas and cheers. Nostra vibe. Skull. However you say it. Cheers and Merry Christmas. So, it's been cold around here lately. Let's see. Yeah, so it's Christmas with my girls. Great time. And it may be me projecting my hopes onto the situation, but it seemed like to me that my daughters were extra grateful this Christmas. Could be just that they're getting older and their thank yous sound more sincere. I don't know. Whatever the case, uh, they seemed a little extra grateful for the experience I tried to create for Christmas, the things we did and the presents they got. So that made me feel great. And again, it probably is me projecting on like, because it was an interesting year. I'd literally less than a month into this, well, just barely a month into this new house. Like actually moving in, less than a month, but from closing till now, a little over a month. Um, and then I mentioned this in the last video, did just get a new vehicle. And so my girls, knowing all this change going on, plus it's not that long ago that I just moved, clear across the country to be with them and to find a new job and everything. So I think they appreciated that. I think that might be my projection, but I think they did appreciate that. And I think long term they'll definitely appreciate it. But there was just a little more sincerity in their thank you this year. They always say thank you. I've trained them to say thank you when anybody gives them anything, and they're always show that. But it doesn't always sound as sincere as you would like. But we had a great time, and then took them back to their mom's last night. I tried to make this video last night, which is Sunday, which is when I normally make the video, but I was just too tired. I recorded something, and I went, oh man, you look like you're about to fall asleep there. So I'm like, make it tomorrow, which is kind of like Sunday because I don't work today and I go back to work tomorrow. So But I hope all of you, anybody watching this, I hope you had a really awesome Christmas and that you got to spend time with your family and enjoy this time of year. There's just something magical and special about this time of year, and it's fun. And so, whatever your traditions are, whatever you do, uh, I hope it was great. And with that, we're heading into a new year. So, Christmas is coming to an end. We're moving into, and I'm not going to be able to make another uh, video before the end of the year because I'm going to be traveling to Colorado to see family and friends. So this will be my last video for the year. So I'm going to kind of get into like the end of year kind of thing. There'll probably be a lot of bleed over when I do my first video of 2024 of like doing the retrospective, prospective thing that I like to do. But I can say that 2023 has been an interesting year, as I say at the end of every year. And what a boring life if at the end of the year you're like, yeah, nothing really happened. A year's a long time, and a lot can happen. And a lot did happen for me this year. A lot happened the year before, and I say that every year. But I think a life in flux is important to mental stimulation and growth, as well as I don't know, staying young. I believe once you kind of get stagnant, it's just like stagnant water. It breeds bacteria and it becomes gross. You got to constantly be switching things up and having life throw you some curveballs. It'll probably do that anyway, but occasionally you've got to do it and make those things happen yourself. But life certainly has a funny way of throwing curveballs all on its own without your own choices and trying to make things happen. So with that said, this was my year. It was basically the first part of the year was pretty tame. I was just working on books. I was wrapping things up for Shove. We were starting to build hype for Kill Them Dead. I went in the studio and recorded some songs for it. That was the first part of the year, and it was pretty cool. It was enjoyable. But this time last year, I had my daughters on vacation because they moved to Missouri in October of 2022. And this time last year, in 2022, I had them for their winter break. And at the time, I thought I was going to see how it worked. That's kind of what I figured is I'd stay in Washington. I liked my job. I'd kind of just settled and kind of felt comfortable, which again, maybe not the best idea. Sometimes you do need to just uproot and do something different. But I'd gotten pretty comfortable, so I was like, they could come out here and visit. I'd just have them for extended times, but I wouldn't have them as often in concession, So there'd just be bigger, longer visits, but more spread out. And I had them for their winter break. It was we had a good Christmas and everything, but it was a little, well, it was kind of bittersweet and hard because my daughter ended up in the hospital, and shortly before she had to fly back home, I ended up staying in the hospital with her overnight. Her sisters went to their mom's sister, who still lived in Spokane, and we got discharged just in time to late at night, get back to my house, sleep, and then get up super ass early to get to the airport to get them home. So it was a whirlwind, and some other things happened early in 2023 that hit me really hard. They were personal things I would never talk about to a broader audience. People who know me very closely know, but I couldn't handle the long absence away. We had a great time while they were with me, and then they were gone for a long stretch. And then spring break was coming up, and that's when I was going to get them again. But I was like, rather than fly them out, fly them back, and keep doing that, and then have them for a long stretch, and it's just different. I didn't like it, so I started looking for work in the Missouri area. Eventually found a job out here and did everything I could to make the smoothest possible transition between moving from there to here and keeping my old employer, doing what I could for them, and then also, you know, moving seamlessly. And it was a big move. It's a lot of states, and I wasn't, outside of my kids being here and wanting to be close to them, it was the only thing that facilitated my mental wanting to move. Because outside of that, there's no reason, there's no desire on my end to live in Missouri per se. Now, that said, once I got here, there's all the rigmarole of moving and selling things and getting rid of things and making that smooth transition, turning off the power and, transferring all this, whatever you got to do. Renting a U-Haul, loading it up, and then the big trip, driving halfway across the country. And then getting to your new place, starting your new job, getting settled down, all this stuff. And ended up getting a new house. Because the new job afforded me the opportunity to do that. And I will say this, like, not everyone believes in providence and divine intervention and things like this. I do. I've seen it too much in my life. I really have. That I'm just like, there's times I should have died and I didn't. There's just like basically something beyond us telling me, and I know what that something is, but like something beyond us telling me that you have more to do. You have more life to live. You can't die now, even though you're an idiot and you're trying. I wasn't specifically trying. It wasn't like suicide. It was just putting myself in dangerous situations and just assuming I was going to come out unscathed, and I kind of did. But those moments were pressed into my memory forever that you should have died that day. You didn't. And I can speak to that in the sense of like moving here because, like I said, I didn't particularly want to. But I was doing it for, what I would consider relatively noble reasons. They just seem right for my kids' sake. And to be as active in their life as I possibly could, I would have to be closer. And I didn't particularly want to, but I felt it was right. And I personally believe that God honored that and made this a very soft landing out here because it's been pretty great. Not perfect. There's been bumps in the road and there's things to take care of always. But it's been a relatively soft landing, and I do attribute that to my dedication to what I feel are noble things. And I feel God will honor those. I generally do. Some people call it karma or whatever kind of like spins you have to put on it. I say divine intervention or God or providence. Or it's just pure chance. And those times I should have died were just fluke chances. And there's plenty of people who would argue that and believe that. At the end of the day, it's been a pretty smooth transition. So, in late August of this year, got into Missouri, started my new job. Like I said, about a month ago, closed on this here house and moved in. And then just the other day, bought a new vehicle because I sold my truck when I moved. And I really, really feel naked without a four-wheel drive capable vehicle. So last video I talked about the vehicles I was looking at, some 3/4 ton trucks, which is what I had before, and I loved it. But I started looking at a couple Jeeps, and then I started falling in love with those. Partially because I'm like, what do I need a 3/4? I don't have like a fifth wheel or something heavy I'm towing. Why do I need all that torque and power? But I do need off-road capabilities, and that's what I need more, typically. Yeah, it's nice to have that power if you ever need it. But when I did have my 3/4 ton truck, the only time I really needed it was when I short-lived had a decent-sized boat, and that boat was heavy, and my truck pulled it like as if it wasn't pulling anything. It was nice having that kind of power, but I don't need that. I don't plan on getting a boat, at least not a boat like that. That was a big fiberglass cuddy cabin boat that was just kind of inherited when I was with my ex, and it was cool and everything, and the truck pulled it just fine. But I'm not a big boat person, and if I was, I preferred like a smaller aluminum fishing boat. That's what I would really want. So if I ever get a boat, it's going to be a pretty light aluminum fishing boat that I could easily pull with a Jeep. So anyway, looking at the Jeeps, I found one I liked. I bought it. It's the 2013 Rubicon Unlimited 4-door 10th anniversary edition Rubicon. And my dad had the first gen Jeep Rubicon because he wanted a Jeep Wrangler his whole life. He wanted a Jeep Wrangler, and it was kind of like one of those around retirement age, pseudo, not quite midlife crisis, but just kind of like, I'm going to do something cool for myself. And he went to get a Wrangler. I remember he got the regular Wrangler, and he was just going to upgrade it the way he wanted. And he just realized it made sense to get the Rubicon that had the lockers in the front and back, and had a lot of features, the lower torque specs that he would already want, the lower gear ratio. And he went back, traded the Wrangler, the regular Wrangler, for the Rubicon. So he had that first gen Rubicon, which would have been 2003, I'm assuming, because 10th anniversary is my 2013. And man, we had a lot of fun in that rig. My dad put the military tires on it, and I think they were like 36s, pretty big, but they're like skinny, and then he siped the heck out of them, and we just went everywhere in that thing, and we destroyed that thing. I remember at the sand dunes in southern Colorado, wheeling in that thing, and we broke the radiator, and we just played this little game. We had all the time in the world, we'll drive a little ways until it starts to overheat, and then we'll stop. We'll have to do that till we can get somewhere with some water, and then we'll fill it up with water until it runs out, and then fill it up again. And eventually we limped it all the way back, but we had some fun. And my dad, I don't know, it just seemed like a thing, almost like to honor him. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get this 10th anniversary Rubicon. The other thing is it says it has a supercharger. I looked under the engine, I couldn't see a supercharger, but that's pretty cool. What else about it? Well, anyway, that's it. It's an enjoyable vehicle. It's a V6, 3.6 liter. It's not anything. The engine's not anything amazing, but the off-road capabilities are there. It's got like skid plates all along the bottom, and lockers front and back. Aggressive tires, tight suspension. It's very good. So I've been having fun in that. I mentioned we're going to be going to Colorado. That's what I'm taking to Colorado. But I had a scare shortly after I bought it. A check engine light came on. And I went, fuck no. Are you fucking kidding me? I just bought this. It's like that instant, like, you bought a lemon. This thing sucks. Buyer's remorse. And then, instantly throwing a code, 2 days after I buy it. This is bullshit. But the code was the gas cap wasn't staying on tight. And I was like, oh. So I guess I could get a new gas cap. So that was a big relief. Because I'm like, I'm driving this to Colorado. I don't know what this friggin' code is, if it's going to, make it there and back. So. But as far as everything else, I mean, I've loved the vehicle. It's so much fun. And they really did a lot of extras at this generation of Jeep Wrangler specifically. My ex, she had a Jeep Cherokee when we first met, and that thing was cool. It was fine, and she would always like kind of like bang it up a little bit, and she's like, "Ah, it's a Jeep," and I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a Cherokee. It's different." Now that said, there's some model Cherokees that I did like, but something about the Wrangler, it has a mystique to it, and yeah, so I was excited to get it. So there's that, which leads us to present day, Christmas time, and it's been good. I mean, it's been interesting. But that's been this year. And I remember last year when I kind of looked back at the year as a whole, I just went, wow, how much can happen in a year? Because last year when I looked at it, I was like launching my first comic book and meeting new people and getting involved in it's like kind of like an independent comic book scene and trying to carve a name for myself and showing my artwork and trying to just get out there and get known a little bit. And now it's like a little over a year, almost 2 years under my belt of like doing that. And I just want to do more. I want to make more. I draw all the time. I love drawing. I'm not the best at marketing and sales and selling myself. It's just not my nature. And so just keep in mind, like when I do make an effort in those ways, it's so out of character. It's like pulling teeth. It's hard for me to do because I never want to not be true to who I am, and sometimes to a fault I do that because it does hold me back in some ways. I know myself. I know myself. I know my limitations. I don't know all this shit. But part of me is like, did uh did Big John Buscema ever have to sell comic books? You know, no, he just jumped right in there. And that said, like, I guess if I worked for a bigger company, they would take care of that, and I would just draw. But being independent, you have to take care of that stuff, and that's part of the unwritten understanding is that you're not going to get successful without doing some of that. You may come up with the coolest things, but if no one's seeing it. But to be honest, I'm definitely not doing it for money. I have a job, I like my job and I do fine with it. I don't need a job. But what I want from comic books is the largest possible audience to see what I'm creating. I create for myself. And honestly, like if I just made all this stuff and gave it to my kids someday, I'd feel pretty happy about that. But to put it in other people's hands is even greater. And when I think about it, if they said you would have to pay $100,000 over time, because I don't have 100,000, I could just pay. But let's say over time, you'd have to pay $100,000. But every comic fan in the world would take the time and actually read your comic. I'd do it. I'd do it because the enjoyment or people like having it and reading it is more important than making money. Like I said, I you're not gonna make money. I mean, if you can, you can. That's great. And there's some people who figured that out, but I can't sell my soul to make money. I refuse to. But the other half of that is you don't have to sell your soul. You just have to be good at certain elements that I'm not good at. And I just need to figure out how to get over my own. I don't know how to explain it. Almost say like inhibitions, but they're not really inhibitions. They're whatever. It's a log jam of me wanting to promote. I don't like promoting myself. I never have. I don't understand why. I feel I'm good at what I do, but I just don't like promoting myself. There's people who are promoting themselves like crazy, and I'm always like, man, that's really cool. I'm really envious of them in that way. But I'm like, that's not me. But also, to be fair, drawing takes a lot of time. And I have a full-time job. I have kids. I have things that occupy a lot of my attention and time. And I don't like spending a lot of time on social media. I just don't. I get on there every once in a while. If you get likes and retweets and shares or anything from me, just know you're lucky, because not many. I don't get on there very often. I really don't like being on there. I do it for the simple fact of, like, I have something I'm creating and I want people to see it. So you got to be social for people to see it. It's really the only reason I use it. Because anybody can look at my stuff. I'm not out there like getting in Twitter wars or like commenting on people's shit, like with my hot takes or anything. I don't care about that stuff. I'm not there to bandstand. I'm there to like show what I'm working on, and hopefully that leads to some people being interested and wanting to get it. But it's a thing of use of time. I don't understand. I don't understand how people can spend so much time on social media, but it works for people. It actually works for people. I just don't understand how to do it. I'm like, you mean you have to be on there like all the fucking time? Like, I can't do that. I would never do that. I don't like it. Like the moments when I feel least productive is like this. It really is kind of like stopping things. And in the old days, I would actually draw while I talked, and but drawing takes a lot of time. It really does. And that old debate was rearing its head of like, which is more important in comics, writing or art? Which is one, I fucking hate that argument. It's a futile argument to begin with, because who's to say what the fuck is right? Like, you enjoy comics however the fuck you want. It's your life. You have your opinion. It's completely subjective. And it's a spectrum. There's people who will really veer towards art, and there's people who really veer towards writing. And they're not wrong. They're never wrong. It's their fucking choice. So when you make like this sweeping statement, like one is more important than the other, for one, it's a mixed media. It's not a comic book without one or without both. If you really like writing and you just can't stand art, why are you reading comic books? Go read a book. If you really like art but you don't like stories, why are you reading comic books? Just buy posters and pinups, It's the reason we like it is because it's this really great combination of both. And I know people who fight the fight of this argument do appreciate both. They're just on a greater side of the spectrum, but they really feel this fucking self-important, grandiose need to say that their position is right when it's 100% subjective. And I don't care what anybody else says. I'll enjoy comics exactly however the fuck I want. Now, to be honest, full disclosure, I've always leaned towards the art side. Art is what got me into comic books. It's what got me back into comic books. And I love a good story. Don't get me wrong. I'm not reading these just for art. But I have found that there are books that I liked that had really great art and the story sucked. But I still liked the books because the art was good. For me, that's okay. For some people, that's just an instant like, fuck that book. The art was good, but the story sucked. Now, there's very few people, I think, out there that are like, well, I don't know. I don't know how it works for people on the other side of the spectrum. I will just say that there's books that people have tried to tell me to read where I didn't like the art, and I just couldn't I couldn't get past it. I'm like, this may be fucking amazing writing. This may be Shakespeare. I don't fucking know. But, and Shakespeare is a horrible example. I don't even like Shakespeare. I think it's overrated. Now, judging for time, it's really great. But anyway, I can't get over the art, and I'm like, if I hate the art, I can't get past it. I just can't. And it happens that way with all kinds of different mediums. And being a former metalhead, we had these arguments about like bands and things. It's like my kids, bless their heart, they're getting into a lot of the music I like, which is really cool. But they all hate Dave Mustaine, and they hate his voice. And I'm like, okay, I get it. So I'm kind of that guy. They're like, they can't get past the voice to hear the greatness of Megadeth's music. And eventually you warm up to the voice when you kind of realize what he's trying to do. But I'm like, I get it. Like if I take a step back, and just being a metalhead in general, you just get it. You're like, you have to come to grips with the reality that most of the world doesn't like the music you think is super fucking awesome. You're like, it's so much more talent and so amazing what these musicians are doing, and the aggression and the energy, and most people are like, it's dissonant fucking noise and I hate it. And most people they'll probably be nice about it. Sometimes they're not, but they're just going to tell you to your face, I don't like your weirdo heavy metal, especially when it gets to the more obscure and fringe stuff that's like death metal, and they're like, I just can't handle it. And I get that. Like, it's taken me a while. Like, as a young metalhead, I'm like, you don't understand. This is way better than anything you listen to, and you're an idiot. And yeah, eventually it's a point, like, it's a niche, and enjoy it as a niche, because you get it and nobody else does. Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh yeah, like Dave Mustaine. That's like my kids. They're kind of like me with the art thing. They can't get over his voice to appreciate the music. And that's me with certain books when I don't like the art, and people are like, it's amazing, it's so well written. And I'm like, yeah, well, it very well could be. I just can't give it that chance because I need the good art. That's what attracts me to comic books. It's not wrong for me to feel that way. It's not wrong for these people to think the writing's amazing even though the art is shit. So, whatever. Only reason I bring that up is because every once in a while that argument rears its head and people get all feisty and stupid like a bunch of idiots. And I'm like, now again, like, as long as it's cordial and you're not feeling like people are wrong to have their opinion and you're just stating yours, that's what fandom is. Like, we talk about the things we like and we don't like, and we have little side arguments, and that's all great. But the minute you're like trying to tell me I'm wrong for enjoying comics the way I want to enjoy them, you're a fucking idiot, and you could just fuck off, because it's none of your damn business how I enjoy my comic books. So, don't like the gatekeepy kind of attitudes. It's like, just be happy that people are fucking reading comics in general, because whether it's just for the art or just for the story, we're just happy that people read them. Because I still believe it's this amazing mixed media. It's one of the coolest, if not the coolest, way to tell a story. Like, movies are cool. Books are cool. I just think something about just still images moving panel to panel is it's really cool. It either resonates with you or it doesn't, kind of like heavy metal. So anyway, I don't know how I got on that like whole side train, but this page here is another page from Unconditional Shove Volume 2. And I still haven't titled this story. I think I had some working titles. I can't remember them now because it wasn't that important to me. I kind of want to just finish it and then be like, here's the title. And this is just one story out of at least 4 that are going in the next volume, which will be slightly delayed because I also have to focus attention on doing the pencils for Kill Them Dead. I've explained that a few times, is that and I'm not going to shortchange Unconditional Shove. It's going to be great. I'm really excited for Volume 2. The stories that we have. This one that I'm working on, I wrote and I'm drawing. Haven't fully decided who's drawing some of the other ones because we might find other artists to do them, which I think would be great. It'll definitely expedite the process because I am going to be busy with Kill Them Dead. But the other stories in the book are just, they're so much fun. It's going to feel much more like the anthology feel I wanted from the book. Because the first time around, it was kind of like a little late in the game that I was like, oh, let's make this an anthology and make these short stories. So Monsters Exist, story number 1, and Unconditional Shove Volume 1 was originally going to be an ongoing, and then I was like, nah, let's switch that up. And so that said, story number 2 feels more like the anthology stories I was kind of hoping for or projecting as we go forward. So that's why there'll be more stories in Volume 2. But yeah, it's been fun, like penciling the Kill Them Dead stuff. But, you know, I get this thing where I'm like, I gotta sling some ink, you know, and do an Unconditional Shove. I'm able to ink also, whereas the Kill Them Dead stuff and just doing pencils and sending them to Skunk for his inks. So anyway, there's a lot to talk about, but yeah, as we draw to the end of the year, I kind of summed up my year and the craziness therein, but very happy, very hopeful for 2024, as I was last year when I went into 2023. You know, I was hopeful for the year. Some things turned out the way I thought. Some things turned out better. Some things turned out worse. You know, quite a few things went totally different. Like if you would have told me this time of year that a year from now you're going to be in Missouri and you're going to be working at this new job, it wouldn't have been out of the realm of like possibilities in my head because I knew I was kind of contemplating that. But I would have been like, wow, what's the process? How did that all unfold, you know? Because it's not the events, it's making them happen, and it's the moments leading up. You know, it's like that old saying, something's a means to an end. There is no means to an end. Getting there is equally as important, if not more important, than arriving at the goal. How you do it is, like I said, I think it's more important most of the time. So if somebody said that to me and they said, yeah, you're going to be here next year, I would be more intrigued by how the hell I got there. What were all the steps? What were all the struggles and trials along the way that made it an interesting story, not the arriving? Because again, you come back to writing, it's like knowing the end journey isn't what makes a good story. It's all the twists and turns that get you there. So that's been my year. If I could, I can't project anything for 2024. We got so much shit going on. You know, we're hoping the economy rebounds a little bit. And we kind of saw that, or I was starting to see it. Like the housing, when I bought my house, I got a better interest rate than I was guessing. Because things were starting to look hopeful. There's other things going on that make me feel that we should be potentially hopeful. Now there's plenty of other stuff that makes me feel pessimistic about the future, but One thing I know is when we got a Republican in office, consumer confidence goes up for whatever reason, and that's across all demographics. Everybody spends more, and everything. The money flows freer, and when the money flows freer, the prices go down. Everybody seems happier. Now that's just economic, and I get it. I wouldn't sell my soul just for economics, but I remember when I was dating the tax accountant lady. She was, when we first started dating, she's like, I'm not going to talk politics. I'm just going to say what I know from an accounting perspective. When the Republicans are in their office, all my clients do way better. You know, people have more money, more expendable resources, and everything just rises economically. You're gonna say what's good, what's not good. We just know that that's typically the case, and so we can hope for that. I don't particularly like talking politics, especially because comic books, and what I'm doing entertainment wise, I don't feel it's a place to grandstand political ideals. But it's no secret that I tend to be very libertarian minded, which is basically like let everybody just do what they're gonna do and let the chips fall where they will. Whatever structures and hierarchies kind of develop, people have to learn to work with those or tear them down, or let these kind of social economic systems like rise and fall as they will without so much interference, which tends to lead towards more conservative side of things, because the modern liberal side of things very much wants control of every aspect of everything, and it's so far removed from what I believe. So where was I going with that? I don't know. It's starting to get late, and it's Christmas. It was a long weekend. It was a good weekend. Um, but I could start to wrap it up as I enjoy this the remnants of this Boilermaker. So going into this new year, I say it all the time. This time of year is extra contemplative for me. It's already a contemplative time of year. Going into a new year, that's why people have New Year's resolutions, is because you get this kind of like feeling of fresh start, or I want to approach this new year a little different, or I want to grow, I want to be better, I want to see these results, so I'm going to approach it this way, whatever. So you get contemplative about your life, you get introspective. And I get even more so because, like I said, I've mentioned it many times. It would be 2 years now from January 1st that my father passed away. And then 10 years before that, so my father passed away on New Year's Day. That's what I woke up to New Year's Day, was your dad passed away. And 10 years previous to that, my mom passed away. And she passed away on like January 5th. So pretty much the beginning of the year. And then back when I got divorced, it was January 3rd when I moved out. So there was a lot associated with change and perspective and introspection and contemplation and rumination and all these things associated with the beginning of the year, which again is already like a very contemplative, introspective moment. So I won't have another video for the end of the year, but I feel like I'd be remiss not to kind of touch on that fact for me personally, how much this time of year impacts me. I do get emotional thinking about those things, but I also have this very strong desire to do what I think my parents would want me to do, which is not linger on the grief or the sadness or the present reality that they're gone, which hurts because I love my parents very much, but they would want me to understand that that is the circle of life, that nobody gets out of here. With, the death rate's always been 1 to 1. You've got your time, and however long that is, do the things that are going to leave a legacy, that are going to leave an impact. The things you're gifted in, the things that you felt called and pushed to do, like, don't ignore that, follow that, push forward with that. And it's easy for me to, like, say, posthumously, that I just want my parents to be proud of me. I wanted them to be proud of me while they were alive, of course, and they were. But definitely now, then it becomes the legacy is mine. My dad left his legacy. My mom left her legacy. And now it's my legacy. I'm the, I have older siblings, but I'm the elder. I'm the old man in my family now. My kids have their mom's dad, so their grandpa on her side is still alive. And a great guy, by the way. But someday his time, and he will pass. And then I will be their oldest male in their lives. And as they move into this, like, later teenage years, it's interesting. It's my legacy. And you do the things that you think are right. You hope that the lessons you try to teach them have lasting impact, and that they take it to heart, because you also know when they're young and teenagers, none of that really seems to make sense to them. And they're just kind of like wandering in crazy circles and just being teenagers. I know where I was. My dad had some great object lessons, and just lessons of, here's the example that I'm leaving for you. And none of it made sense to me. Not for years, even after teenage years. I would say a lot of what my parents did that I respected and came to realize was their legacy, I didn't understand until my early 20s at the earliest, and a lot of it I didn't understand, and even to this day I'm unpacking what their sacrifices were, what the way they lived, and and again, that's posthumously. So the fruit of the reward of being a parent isn't like immediately rewarding. You do it because you love them, because you want them to succeed, you want them to understand what's most important in life, and train them and teach them all you can. But you don't see the rewards of that for a long time. And typically, that's part of the reason why being a grandparent is such, I'm guessing, never been one, but I'm guessing that's why it's a very rewarding feeling, because you spent all that time, like, pouring into your kids and trying to, like, raise them and teach them and be involved in their life, just to get to a point where your kids are doing that for their own kids, like, and you're watching them go through all those same heartaches and struggles and the hard times of, like, trying to be a parent. It's not easy, especially when they're young and you're figuring it out. You've never done it before. And it'd be exciting to see my girls go through that. But, one thing at a time, of course. But they're getting older. My oldest is just right on the cusp of being an adult. So it's like, it's a weird feeling. But that said, as I get to the end of the year, and I think I get contemplative about mom and dad and the struggles of life, like I said, my divorce and things like that, things that, like, really hit home, and they all happened around this time of year. it really does make me excited for what the new year is going to bring, as much as those are very grief embodied moments in my life. Um, every year's a gift, every day's a gift, and nobody's guaranteed anything. And I try to be very honest with my kids, but when I start talking that way, they're like, "Oh, Dad, don't talk like that. I don't want to think about that." And I'm like, "Well, it's just reality. It's gonna happen someday." I didn't. My dad was the strongest person I've ever met in my life, the smartest person, the most capable in most regards, in every way. And it's just so hard to think somebody that powerful in your mind uh, could succumb to the thing that gets us all in the end. And yeah, there'll come a time we'll shuffle off this mortal coil, as Shakespeare once said. We'll shuffle off this mortal coil, and what awaits us? We have faith and beliefs and things that we assume, but nobody knows till you get there. I'll never forget Walter Payton. I can't remember what he had, if it was cancer or what, but he had some um, life-threatening illness, and he was on death's door. And somebody asked him, like, "Walter, are you afraid of dying?" Because he was this football player, he's a strong guy, whatever. And the answer was so powerful to me. I'll never forget. It always sticks with me. He says, "Yeah, of course I'm afraid." He says, "I've never done it before." And I just thought that is so powerful and freeing, because that's why would we ever fear it? It's only because we've never done it before. You also think of the finality, and the reality is, like, nobody can picture the world without yourself in it, because you experience everything from the inside out. So it's unfathomable to picture the world without you existing in it. It's just you can't even comprehend. Like, you can try, and your brain will do one of those, like, "Whoa, too much, doesn't make sense, doesn't compute." Yeah, we don't know what waits us. But I have faith and beliefs that, and if nothing happens, nothing happens. But the only reason there's any trepidation is because, like Walter Payton said, never done it before. Now, hopefully I have a long, long time left. My kids would like that. Like I said, if I start talking about it, they get anxious. They don't like hearing. And, you don't want to do that to your kids. I don't do it on a big scale, but I also don't want to, like, mince words and be like, they're older now. Like, when they were really little, we didn't talk about this shit, but they're starting to get older now. And part of the thing is, I heard someone say that you learn more about life at a funeral home than at an amusement park. And that's true. You can have these great, fun experiences, and you should. But nothing will make you understand life and the life you have and that you've been given more than going to a funeral or experiencing death. Because you can't have one without the other. It's just such a reality in this what we have. It's unavoidable, unescapable. But I don't think it's something to be afraid of. I think it's something to be embraced and understood. And then you do what you can to leave an impact and leave a legacy. So hopefully I'm doing that. Hopefully you're doing that. Hopefully we're all doing that. Not just for our sake, but because it lives on. My kids speak about my dad like as if he walked on water. And part of that is me telling him, "Yeah, he basically walked on water," But that's a legacy. That's the power. And when my dad told them when they were really young, we were at the museum, and they were little, and they were tired. We'd been walking all day, and they were tired, and we had to go up this hill at the end, and, like, we were just going on a hike outside of the museum. This was in Denver. And I remember one of my kids complaining about their legs being tired, and my dad turned to her and he said, "I thought you were a Dasco." And however, whatever impact that was, like, she kind of went, "Oh, I can do it," like, empowered her. Like, yeah, that's who you are. Don't forget it. Um, so he left that little legacy, and it carried on through the family name of, like, we're not ones to shy away from the struggles. We're not the ones to complain when it's tough. So, thought you were a Dasco. And he said that to me in more words plenty of times in my life. So, anyway, with that, like, whatever big ambitions you have for 2024, I don't have any particular big ambitions. Nothing specific anyway. I hope to continue to build on the things that I've been working on and the things that I've been doing. A full year of the job I'm at now, a full year of being in Missouri will be nice. So 2023 was a year of moving for me, and 2024 will be a year of settling in to the new climate and then the new job. But whatever big ambitions you have, I hope that you face those, like I say always, with confidence, courage, strength, power, a great care for the loved ones in your life, and always integrity as much as possible. We fall, we pick ourselves up, and you deal with the consequences, but you got to have those moments where the buck stops here. I'm not gonna, if you're a kleptomaniac or something, I'm not gonna steal anymore, or you're a compulsive liar. I'm not gonna lie anymore. The buck stops here. Some point, you say, I'm tired of dealing with these negative consequences, and the only way to turn it around is to act with integrity and build on that. Because a reputation can be restored. It can't always be restored in certain people's minds, but in an overall sense, it can be restored. But there's no shortcut. It's just constant building on doing the right thing over and over and over and over and over again. Don't lie. Don't steal. Don't cheat. Don't be an asshole. Don't be a piece of shit. Just constantly build on those things and become the person that you wish you would always have been. And eventually you'll restore that. I've seen it before. But if you're already doing good and always been doing those things, there's always room for growth. And don't ever slip, because it's easy. It's much easier to lie and steal, even though it's harder to deal with the consequences. They're very natural things, unfortunately. But it takes something beyond us to realize that acting in integrity is more important. So, as I'm coming up on an hour, holy shit, of rambling, I'm going to wrap this up. So, like I said, face your obstacles with power, strength, courage, conviction, confidence, a great care for the loved ones in your life, and always integrity. And like I mentioned before, I believe divine intervention and providence will shine respect on those things done with sincerity. I believe that, whether you do or not. But if you start to, I think you'll start to see it. So, anyway, that's all I got for this video and for this year. Once again, Merry Christmas, as I'm going to down my drink, and cheers and Merry Christmas. Hope it was awesome for you. And Happy New Year. I hope it's also awesome for you. I will see you all next year. This is Odin. Later.